Hello. My name is Celia Avila from the Junipero Serra branch of the Los Angeles Public Library, and today I am joined by Cesar Mora from the John Muir branch. Today, we would like to introduce the LA Made program. LA Made programs focus on the diverse landscape of Los Angeles, highlighting the immense artistic talent that has developed in the course of the city's eclectic history. I would like to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities, our Library Foundation, and our behind-the-scenes staff for helping us bring this program to you virtually. The next LA Made program will be on Thursday, October 29th at 4 p.m. with self-help graphics and art patio mobile artists. We will join self-help graphics and art patio mobile artists and learn how to create traditional Dia de Muertos crafts to honor our ancestors. For this workshop, you will need colorful tissue paper, a papel picado template, a stapler, twine or string, and a glue stick. To learn more about self-help graphics season of Dia de los Muertos programs at selfhelpgraphics.com or Instagram at SHG1970. The program next week will be streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, just like today. Today, we are joined by Professor Gloria Arjona, who is showing us a little-known side of José Guadalupe Posada, creator of iconic Dia de Muertos imagery. In a bilingual presentation, Dr. Arjona looks back at Posada's humorous rhymes and illustrations commenting on then contemporary but eerily relevant persons and issues, including politicians, pandemics, and racism.
Hola, mi nombre es César y soy de la sucursal John Muir de la Biblioteca Pública de Los Ángeles. Y hoy me acompaña Celia Ávila de la sucursal Junipero Serra. Hoy vamos a presentar el programa LA Made. Los programas de LA Made se enfocan en el paisaje diverso de Los Ángeles, destacando el inmenso talento artístico que se ha desarrollado a través del transcurso de la historia ecléctica de la ciudad. Quisiera agradecer al Fondo Nacional de Artes y Letras, nuestra fundación de la biblioteca y nuestro equipo entre bastidores por ayudarnos a realizar estos programas virtualmente. El próximo programa, LA Made, será el jueves 29 de octubre a las 4 de la tarde con Self-Help Graphics and Arts Patio Mobile Artists. Acompaña a nuestros presentadores y aprenda a crear manualidades tradicionales de Día de Muertos para honrar a nuestros antepasados. Necesitará papel china, un patrón de diseño para papel picado, una engrapadora, hilo y pegamento en barra. Aprenda más sobre la temporada de programas de Día de Muertos de Self-Help Graphics en su sitio de internet selfhelpgraphics.com o en el nombre de cuenta de Instagram @SHG, todas mayúsculas, 1970. Este programa será transmitido a través de las cuentas de YouTube y Facebook de la biblioteca. Ahora quisiera presentar el programa de hoy. Las Calaveras desconocidas de Posada. Acompáñenos mientras la doctora Gloria Arjona comparte el lado menos conocido de José Guadalupe Posada, creador de imágenes icónicas del Día de Muertos. En esta presentación bilingüe, la doctora Arjona examina las rimas graciosas e ilustraciones de Posada y reflexiona sobre situaciones y personas como el racismo, políticos y la pandemia. Contemporáneas durante el tiempo de Posada y que aún resuenan. Por favor, demos una cálida bienvenida a la profesora Gloria Arjona.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias, Celia. Gracias, César. Thank you very much. And thanks to all the audience that are listening. And indeed, I will be presenting some literary calaveras. And it will be bilingual. I don't have to translate myself because I'm sure that you understand what I'm saying. My first language is Spanish, and of course, my English is has a lot of Spanish in it, okay? So the material I am presenting is in Spanish, but I also offering English translations, and sometimes I will go from Spanish to English. Nobody will be left out, unless if you are speaking English or Spanish, okay? So I will start with a calavera. So calavera means skull or skeleton, but it also, when we say calaveras literarias, it refers to those rhymes, satirical rhymes that most of the times, if not always, accompany the prints of José Guadalupe Posada, the artist we are talking about. As you mentioned, Cesar and Celia, the creator, el creador of all the imagery we see today during Day of the Dead. Let me start with a reflection. This is not a funny, neither a satirical calavera, but it's more on the reflection of basically that we all die. And these are verses, very small rhymes, and I will do it in Spanish and English. Es una verdad sincera lo que nos dice esta frase, que solo el ser que no nace no puede ser calavera. It is a sincere truth, a sincere truth, what these words declare. Only those who are not born will never show their bone. So I wanted to start with this because it summarizes the main idea, or one of the main ideas behind the book I just released. And Neil, if you want to start with the PowerPoint, please, I would appreciate if I have access. Okay, and then I just have to play from current. Okay, well, I hope I'm doing everything correct. Okay, I usually use Zoom, and this is another platform that I'm starting to like, but it's a little bit different. Now, this is the cover of my book, Posadas Unknown Calaveras, Las Calaveras Desconocidas de Posada. And some of you might be asking, who is Posada? Well, Posada actually is here. This is the artist. And what is important about him is that he is the creator of all the iconography we see during Day of the Dead. This was mainly towards the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. Maybe you have seen his Catrina. This is the most known calavera. Remember, calavera means skull or a skeleton, of José Guadalupe Posada. And I actually didn't choose the cover. It was the publishing house. It was published by Floricanto Press. And when I saw the cover, I say, but it's a little bit contradictory because I am talking about Posadas Unknown Calaveras. And right here, we have the most known calavera of José Guadalupe Posada. But then I realized that after all, is very pertinent. And I will explain you why. This is a detail of a mural by the greatest Diego Rivera. Diego Rivera was an admirer, a fan of the work of José Guadalupe Posada, as many artists of Diego Rivera's time were, because Posada by then had been died. But it was actually Diego Rivera. This skeleton is known as La Catrina. And I will talk about La Catrina. But actually, it's a little bit different, or very, very different, of how Posada conceived his work. This is the original work. This belongs to the year 1912, more or less. Posada died in 1913, so this is one of his latest works. On the other hand, the work, the mural, this is just a detail of the mural of Diego Rivera. This mural is of 1946, 1947. So, yes, Posada is one of the most recognized artists, but as is always happens, after he died, okay? Now, Posada just did this. He didn't do a complete skeleton. It was Diego Rivera the one who put a nice dress, and this calavera, this skeleton became another thing, very, very related to the original idea of Posada, but with some differences that I want to point out because it has brought a lot of confusion, okay? So what else? Okay, you can see, those of you who are fans of Frida Kahlo, you can see that on the right of La Catrina is Frida Kahlo, another artist greatly influenced by Posada. And in front of Frida Kahlo is Diego Rivera, the artist. Of course, this is an anachronism. Es un anacronismo, okay? Because in real life, Frida Kahlo was more than 20 years younger than Diego Rivera. Okay, Frida and Diego were husband and wife. And right here, Diego Rivera depicted himself as a boy taking the hand of La Catrina. And there are around 100 characters around La Catrina. So that's why this mural is important, because it was Diego Rivera, the one that elevated a drawing by José Guadalupe Posada to a character, a protagonist of a mural, okay? One of the messages might be that everybody will die. That's why we see all these people from different countries, not only from Mexico. Right here to the right of Frida Kahlo is the Cuban poet José Martí. So just only one of the readings, one of the interpretations is that we all die, no matter our social status, because in this mural, in the whole mural, there are rich and poor, there are very well-known people, and there are people that we will never know, some invented people, but we all die no matter what. Just as I say at the beginning with my Calavera Literaria. Now, I want you to pay attention. I always tend to pay attention to the things less known. So why did I decide to entitle Posada Unknown Calaveras? What are those unknown calaveras? Well, the literary calaveras. Notice that whereas this is the original print, it was not a painting of Posada, and notice that whereas the print is taking less than half, there are some verses that we usually don't pay attention to. And for me, it was why we don't talk about the literary work of Posada, even if these rhymes are very, very simple. Originally, in the time that Posada was writing, the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, most people were illiterate in Mexico. So they would use, and he was wisely using verses that are easy to memorize. Remember that when we are children, we learn how to read a little bit by identifying the letters, a little bit creating, but also memorizing. And we learn riddles, rhymes, all kinds of stuff to help us memorize. And that's what was doing José Guadalupe Posada. These are the literary calaveras. So in the work of Posada, you will always find a visual part and a written part. And this is, again, what I am concentrated, what I am advocating today, not only for the verses, because I love his print, his visual prints, but what I want to say is we cannot isolate, we cannot detach one from the other. In order to understand his complete idea, we have to see the visual and the text as a complement of each other. So these are literary calaveras. Today we define as satirical verses composed as epitaphs. that means as if the people we are referring were dead. And they might be dead or they might be alive. Today, and for those of you, I know that some of my wonderful students from Caltech are listening and looking at me, even if I don't see them, okay? And some of them, for some of them, it might be strange that we talk about la muerte, the death, okay? So as you will learn, is a very important, probably the most important Mexican holiday, not only Mexican holiday, is from Mexican tradition, but is already a tradition from the United States because there are big celebrations here around Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. Actually, 2 days, November 1st and 2nd. Okay, so let's go back to the Calaveras Literarias. Right here, this is very small, okay? But what I translated these verses, and it says, there are beautiful chickpeas sellers with corset and high heels, but they'll also be schools of a pile. Right here, Posada is criticizing those women, probably like me, dark-skinned women, that wanted to use a fashion, a European fashion, a foreign fashion that was not appropriate for them. That's what is Posada implying. And not only that, people that would do everything that was in their hands to pretend to belong to a class that they were not belonging actually. Okay, so that's why look, he's actually here in his work. Posada is actually going through the very low class women, you maid, servant girl, wearing red brick made makeup. Death will say, you won't escape. You are a school of a pile, Calaveras del Montón. Now, you might be thinking, why Posada would criticize low-class women? Because right here we have learned in the work of Diego Rivera, he is criticizing the elite women. That's the way he interpreted. But in the original work, Posada was criticizing the low-class women who wanted to belong to another sphere, who were desperate to be accepted. And you must remember that Posada was among, above anything, he was a nationalist. He was an artist, an educator. He wanted to educate people and he wanted commoners to feel proud of their heritage, mostly indigenous heritage. Because when he created this calavera that he did not call La Catrina, look how the way he called it, garbancera, garbanzo seller, chickpeas seller. So he did not baptize his skeleton as La Catrina. It was Diego Rivera who baptized it as La Catrina. So this is important because it is the more well-known work of Posada, but is usually misunderstood. Okay, so we have to say, when we are talking about La Catrina, we are also thinking in the influence of Diego Rivera. So I wanted to pay attention to this now, to bring your attention. I hope you don't get confused with the terminology, okay? This print that has a woman with a hat that is parodying this kind of women. Right here, Posada called these women Catrinas. Okay, so you see the difference, okay? Diego Rivera called la Catrina to what Posada called garbancera. But in this work, which is part of Posada's unknown Calaveras, Posada called these women, baptized them as La Catrina. And these women, like the women that is represented here, indeed is a criticism for middle class or middle class women, not for low class women. And I will be talking a lot of social classes because Posada was an artist that lived that work mainly from the 19th to the 20th century, from the dictatorship to the Mexican Revolution. Okay, so there is a big change over there. This work, this Catrina, and these Calaveras literarias that I am presenting in my book were done under the dictatorship. The dictatorship of Porfirio Diaz that took place from 1876 to 1910 when the revolution took him away. Okay, so right here we have two works of Posada, but different context. Revolution, before the revolution, the dictatorship. And right here, Catrina is indeed, the meaning is indeed what Diego Rivera, the way he interpreted. Catrina, in fact, is a mexicanismo, is a term that we only use in Mexico that means that criticizes middle-class women. Okay, so let me read for you, please. La Catrina pretenciosa echa el resto en el vestir, y el vestido dominguero al zócalo va a lucir. También allí han de asistir los rateritos bribones que haciéndose los simplones se aprovechan de la frasca y robando los doblones se dan de ellos su tarasca. And right here, I put the equivalent of what I am saying. I don't want to read in English and Spanish. I translated into English, and those of you who have done translations know that it's very difficult to translate the poetry, and more if we are talking about satirical poems, okay? So I try right here to preserve some of the satirical tone that used by Posada in his original work. This work was done, as I said before, during the dictatorship. So, of course, during the dictatorship, Posada was criticizing not the low-class women, not the low-class men. He was criticizing the people in power. Let me go back a little bit. Catrín, this is a card from the Loteria. I know that Loteria is a very popular game here in the States, mainly among Latinos. And we have El Catrín, okay? And El Catrín means, in this context, when the Loteria was created by Posada, in many ways, Posada was one of the creators also of our Loteria. It was later on a French entrepreneur, Clemente Jacques, who, inspired by the work of Posada, did his Loteria, okay? So El Catrín refers to the same thing of La Catrina in this context. Those men, when I play with my students, they say, what are they trying to be sarcastic about? Okay, so this is a very elegant and very refined man, and that's a Catrín, but his refinement is just an appearance. I bet under his socks, his shoes has big holes, okay? Because it's just an appearance. Catrín, Catrina means just pretentious people that don't have even a place of their own, okay? But they pretend, maybe in the past, their families were rich, whatever, but they don't have anything, but they still want to pretend to belong to a class that they don't pretend anymore, okay? So that, in this context, in this time, during the dictatorship, those were one of the targets of José Guadalupe Posada, and those are the ones I am addressing in my book. I wanted to point out to this picture, thanks to the photography, the photojournalism in Latin America started with the Mexican Revolution. So that's why we know a lot of things about the Mexican Revolution. So if you are good observers, you can see here people from two contrasting classes. These elegant women that everybody wanted to imitate, that all women were crazy to dress like them. This is Mexico. This is Mexico, but they are dressed the European style. And then what do you see to your right, on the left and to your right? We see an indigenous woman, maybe the nanny. And I wanted to take this picture because this picture reflects what was Mexico at the end of the 19th century. Actually, there were two Mexicos. The Mexico of very few, like 3% of rich people, 3%, a few families, barely 840 families own 97% of the land, de la tierra buena, of the good land. That was the Mexico that José Guadalupe Posada was criticizing at the end of the 19th century. That's why after the revolution, or during the revolution, rather, he would criticize the women, like these women. Why do you want to pretend to be like those oppressors? Be proud of yourself. Dress the way you dress. Let's not incorporate foreign ideas and garments in our culture. Let's be proud of what we are, because we already had enough centuries of oppression. So that's what José Guadalupe Posada is saying in his verses and in his prints. These prints are also the lesser known work of Posada. They are not as fancy as Cesar was showing me some, and Celia, some of the prints. Those are beautiful. I mean, and Posada has very elaborated prints. And he is the most influential artist, okay? Not only Posada, but all the artists after him. Even the great muralists, they owe to Posada a lot, and they recognized always Diego Rivera, José Clemente Orozco, David Alfaro Siqueiros, Frida Kahlo. They owe many ideas to José Guadalupe Posada, okay? So this reflects again before the revolution. Let me go. The work I am presenting again, I don't see you, but I'm sure that you see me. Okay, so Posada's Unknown Calaveras is not the first time that this work is published. Okay, Jean Charlot, let me see, it's a French. Jean Charlot, a French artist that lived in Mexico, and actually the authority in everything in regards to José Guadalupe Posada. He was the person, the academic, that took Posada from Mexico to the world, to the United States, because he taught in one of the universities of New Mexico. Okay, so he published in 1947, he published the same verses, but it was a limited edition and is really out of print. So you see, it was necessary to do again this. Of course, this is a very elegant and I'm sure expensive set of prints, and the one I am offering is rather simple, but my idea was to make it accessible to everybody. Something that I would question Jean Charlot, even if he was a great, he had a lot of knowledge about Posada, is that he related all the work to Posada in regards to death to ancient Mexico, particularly to the Tzompantli, which were wooden racks where the Mexicas or Aztecs would place the skulls of their enemies or their captives, of course, when they were dead. Or the cult to Mictlantecutli and Mictecacihuatl, the Lord and the god and the goddess of the underworld. So Jean Charlot linked the work of Posada to ancient Mexico. And what I am presenting today, and another reason why of the title Unknown Calaveras, is the relationship of the work of Posada and as a consequence of the Day of the Dead iconography with Europe, okay? I just wanted to point out that we have maybe an influence, of course, as in all the Mexican and Central American traditions, the indigenous part is always there. I am not denying that, okay? We have this tradition of during these days, if you go to Mexico, you will see that they are selling these sugar skulls that the children usually, the children and the adults, they eat and they give away during these days, okay? And usually you see they have a space for a label, because what we do is we ask the person that sells them to label them with the persons, with the friends we are going to give them to, okay? So this is a family. If it looks like a kind of uncanny or strange, okay, this is a tradition in Mexico, okay? Another of the many traditions around the Day of the Dead. But actually, the work of Posada and what I am presenting here, and some people really don't accept this, but I hope it will be at some point convincing, is that is this rhymes and drawings and representations, allegories of death from medieval Europe that were known as la danza macabra, or the dance of the death, or the dance macabre. In French, le dance macabre, okay? So these are from the 15th century, but we have these allegories even from before, from the 13th century. And it called my attention that just as Posada did, is a component, is a pair of visual and verse. Visual and verse. This is in French, okay, because they were popular. These allegories of death were popular during the medieval times. And usually it was, as its name indicates, a dance where the death was the main protagonist, and the death will invite people of different social status. There were not so many during the medieval times, to dance, meaning that it would not matter if they were rich, important, or poor. All of them will go with death to the graveyard, al panteón. Todo mundo va a morir, okay? So these allegories were created with a purpose, many purposes, and one of them was, we all are equal. When we die, the death is a great equalizer, la muerte como la gran democratizadora. Because even if we have millions of dollars or whatever the money currency was there, we all die. Nothing prevents death to take us. Nothing prevents death to take all the people, okay? So that's why death is a great equalizer. In Spain, they have a performance still. It really, when I was doing my research, I found that there is a place in Catalonia, Spain, where they still do these representations, as you can see. And if Neil, if you can play the first video, I would appreciate. Thank you. So the most influential artist was a German, Hans Holbein. I'm sure that some of you have heard about him. And he was, in fact, the artist that illustrated the New Testament. I believe the New Testament, part of the Bible, either the Old Testament or the New Testament. I'm not sure right now, but definitely he worked with Martin Luther, no Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther, the Protestant reformer. Okay, and that tells us a lot, because Holbein wanted again to warn people about death. The purpose was probably more a moral purpose. He wanted people to behave well, and that's why he's reminding them, okay, remember that we all die and we will have to pay for everything that we do when we are alive. Okay. So his goal was not to criticize so much the society from he did it, but he was not thinking because in a social he didn't have any social intention. But first of all, he worked for Martin Luther, and secondly, he would be criticizing those people that he thought were very separated from the Christian teachings. Like, and his targets were the rich, and mainly like the Pope. Right here, we have the Pope. This is a little, I don't know if you can see the Pope is going to crown a nobleman, an emperor, perhaps. And what is the emperor doing? Is kissing the feet of the Pope. And Hans Holbein is implying in this drawing, that's not Christianity, because true Christians, what did Christ did? What Christ did was the opposite. He washed the feet of his disciples. So right here on your right, you see a judge. Holbein is also criticizing the judge, the people in power, okay? And what is the judge doing? He is giving his back to a poor peasant. We can see that, infer that is poor because of the way he is dressed. And he is giving his complete attention to a rich man or a richer man that is going to give him money. Okay, so these prints were a criticism to those people in power who were not doing what they were supposed to be doing. Of course, his work was banned. but artists continue this tradition of the dance of death, okay? And then I took just some samples here and there, okay? One of the most important cartoonist or artist, popular artist right here. This is an English artist, also very influential. And this is his own representation of the dance of death. Of course, the year is completely different, like 2 centuries later, England. And his style was very different, and his intentions, of course, very different than Holbein. Right here, this is in fact very satirical. He was one of the first artists to use this theme of La Danse Macabre as something satirical and apply to everyday situations, just as later on will do José Guadalupe Posada. Right here, I pay attention to the verses. So I want you to pay attention to this because there is also what we could call Calaveras literarias, a tradition in English. So there is no excuse why this is a form of art related to the Day of the Dead that we are really losing because we are not writing anymore. And I wanted to point out that there is an important tradition of writing verses around death, just as we do in Mexico, in English. Right here, I translated also, but in English, the original is English. Drunk and alive, the man was fine. But dead and drunk, why? He is mine. Okay, so we have like 2 parts. When the guy here is having fun, when he's alive, he's drinking and smoking and doing everything that he's not supposed to do. And then, of course, he dies. And then the death says, now it's mine. Okay, so that's Rowlandson in the end of the 18th century, early 19th century, I'm sorry. And later on, if you like music, and if you are fan, as I am, of Camille Saint-Saëns, maybe the most popular work is a Carnival of the Animals. Okay, this is France. France, now we are in France, 19th century France, a few decades after the previous artist. And what did he do in music? He used the theme of the Danse Macabre and took some poetry and applied, but in his case, not to an artwork, but to music, to a symphony. And I found in the internet a little bit of this fiddler in the work of Camille Saint-Saëns, France, 19th century. You will see that now death is a fiddler that is inviting with his music to all people to dance with him, and he is taking them where? To the cemetery. Please, Neil, video number 2. And now we are in the 19th century, but now in Mexico. José Guadalupe Posada, almost a contemporary with Camille Saint-Saëns, a few decades later. So what did he do with this theme of the Dance of the Dead? He Mexicanized it, la mexicanizó. So right here in his work, the Dance of the Dead is el baile de las calaveras. And notice again, the calaveras, the skeletons are dancing and doing mischievous things. And again, he was very political, as Leopoldo Méndez portrayed him in this print. And look, this is the artist again, Posada, and look what is he's looking at: turmoil, revolution. Well, he started again under the dictatorship, oppression outside of his work, his place where he used to work, and those are the themes that he will include in his work, with the theme of the dance of the dead. And it was so appropriate to have schools and to have these as icons during these times, and more during the Mexican Revolution, because dance was, not dance, but death was around the corner. It was a very bloody revolution. And also, again, because he is underlining that message that below our skins, either we are rich or poor, ugly or pretty, we all are schools, and we are going to the same place. This is one of the most very well-known, most known works of Posada, right here. You see the influence of the dance of the dead. There is a dance, but they are dancing, of course, fandango. Fandango, this is called Fandango de las Calaveras, and fandango means dance party. And again, we usually see this work isolated, but I want to emphasize that he always did the visual part and the verses, the written part. So that's what I, again, advocating today for his literary work. I compare, let me see the time, okay. I compare, if you compare, this is from the book I published, Posadas Unknown Calaveras, and there are 100 calaveras, 100 little works devoted to different people, rich, poor, women, men, all kinds of people, okay, like a really carnival. And I found that there are many, of course, it's not a surprise, the bishop, the nobleman, that Hans Holbein did many centuries before and in another completely different context. But we have still criticism. One of the main targets were, in Posada's work, the church, because the church, the Catholic Church, had a lot of power and was not doing his work in helping people, but was doing exactly what Holbein was criticizing and Martin Luther was were criticizing many centuries before in Germany, that they were serving the rich. Okay, these are part of the Calaveras that I am presenting. Death as a Great Equalizer, the work of José Guadalupe Posada, Calaveras del Montón. And since we might not have a lot of time to read this, and I want to leave some time for questions, and I still have a few things that I want to present. Right here, El Alcalde, any resemblance with the reality is just a coincidence, okay? Because right here, what Posada did, he is making fun of a politician that was not able to control an epidemic outbreak at the end of the 19th century in Mexico. And it says, el señor Don Emeterio, alcalde de un pueblo agreste, tomó formal y muy serio medidas contra la peste, ensanchando el cementerio. And I hope you read along with the English version. Something that I love to find in these 100 calaveras is that Posada address the theme of racism against Afro-descendants in Mexico. And very, very simple, this is a little dialogue, okay, that somebody says, negra tienes tú la cara, negro el pelo y las pestañas. And then the person that to whom the Afro-descendant is saying, negra tienes tú el alma, You have your soul is black porque nunca te la lavas. But what I want to point out is that in an environment when nobody, not even the cultural institutions and the educative institutions in Mexico, were recognizing the important contribution and percentage of people of Afro descendants, of what we would call today Afro-Mexicans, Posada is recognizing that. So he was really very sensitive and he knew his environment better than, as I said before, the institutions. Okay, so right here there is a space for Afro-Mexicans, something that in many literary works and institutions in Mexico during these times did not exist, not even in this time. The Afro-descendants are overlooked in Mexico. What I want to do next, a little video, is about some Calaveras, but let me explain you a little bit so what you're going to see and hear, where Posada is criticizing people, commoners, that want to take advantage of other people, okay? In these three little Calaveras, he is criticizing first, let me see what is first. First is a barber that used cheap razors for his clients, and he left all the clients with scratches and marks, and then the death comes and takes him and does the same thing but worse. Okay, and then you will hear another little calavera of a policeman, rather a security, that instead of doing his work is allowing the thieves to steal. So that's why death comes. So you see, death is nothing negative in this way. In this set of calaveras, death is making justice, okay, to the people that are not doing what they were supposed to be doing. So Neil, please play the video number 3.
Tan exacto en vigilar, tan cumplido en su deber, que dejaba a los rateros hicieran su oficio bien. Por eso pues la huesuda se lo aventó en 2 por 3, y hoy solo oye que le dicen requiescat impase amén. Con navaja de hojalata rasuraba a don Nachito, y a todo cliente raspaba como si fuera marrano. Pero un sábado llegó en que la muerte ligera, sin querer me lo volvió barbacoa de calavera. El pulque como ninguno sabía a Romero componer, le echaba miados de gato y agua de jabón también. Por eso soy calavera, requiescat, impase, amén.
Thank you very much. I want to end this presentation, and again, questions after the presentation are welcome and desirable. I want to end with a song, a popular song from Aguascalientes that talks exactly about all this. For those of you who don't know me, I have my artistic side also, so I like to sing. And what you will hear is this song. I usually invite musicians to play with me because I believe in this case on the power of music, first of all, and because when we talk about literary calaveras, they can be easily adapted to music, as you saw, and as you will see in the following song, where I start with some calaveras taken from this set of calaveras I am presenting, and then I include some of them in the middle of the song. So, Neil, could you please play the last video?
Obrero, culto o bribón, a la misma tabla van. Ni están todos los que son, ni son todos los que están. Viene la muerte echando parejo, se lleva al joven, también al viejo. La muerte viene echando rasero, no se le escapa ni un pasajero. No se escapa el rezandero, ni el borracho por vinatero, ni el asesino por ser matón. Todos tenemos que ir al panteón. Viene la muerte echando parejo, se lleva al joven, también al viejo. La muerte viene echando rasero, no se le escapa ni un pasajero. Viene la muerte echando parejo, se lleva al joven, también al viejo. La muerte viene echando rasero, no se le escapa ni un pasajero. Es una verdad sincera lo que nos dice esta frase, que solo aquel que no nace no puede ser calavera. Viene la muerte echando parejo, se lleva al joven, también al viejo. La muerte viene echando rasero, no se le escapa ni un pasajero. Viene la muerte echando parejo, se lleva al joven, también al viejo. La muerte viene echando rasero, no se le escapa ni un pasajero. Se muere el rico y el jornalero, también se lleva al talabardero y al carpintero con más ventaja, porque hasta él mismo se hace su caja. Viene la muerte echando parejo, se lleva al joven, también al viejo. La muerte viene echando rasero, no se le escapa ni un pasajero. Viene la muerte echando parejo, se lleva al joven, también al viejo. La muerte viene echando rasero, no se le escapa ni un pasajero.
Okay, and with this, I conclude. Let me stop sharing. And I hope you learned something today. You see, it's exactly the time. But any questions or comments are very welcome. And I appreciate, again, that you pay attention to my work that I feel very passionate about. And I hope that during these days, when you see the iconography of José Guadalupe Posada, you are going to think also in the literary work. Thank you very much, and any comments or questions are very welcome, and thanks to the organizers. There is a question from Diane. Okay, let me see. Oh, there are many questions. I'm sorry, I could not. Okay, I'm glad. Okay, bien, thank you very much. When did you first become interested in Posada, Calaveras, and his work? Do you teach this history in your college classes? Well, whenever the work of Posada belongs more than literatura to oralitura. is really not very academic work, but yes, indeed, whenever I am able to include something in my curriculum, I do, okay? What I definitely do is I use the loterías, because those are excellent teaching tools for learners of Spanish. Okay, and there is a lot to say about the lotería. So thank you for, and I became interested in Posada. Well, being Mexican, I think I almost was born in Posada. I am not that old, okay, but I grew up looking since an early age his work, okay? So it's something. Thank you very much. Gracias. You mentioned that much of the iconography we now associate with Dia de los Muertos is from Posada. How this work has shaped the culture? Okay, Dia de los Muertos. Well, it's a little bit complex. The question Reina is asking is, how has he shaped the culture? Tremendously. But you know what? More than Posada, because we know Posada through the eyes of other people, and mainly through the eyes of Diego Rivera and the great artists, because unfortunately Posada didn't have an opportunity like the one I am having right now. Posada, even if he was popular during his time, it was popular to a certain degree. He could not aspire to the elite. We must remember again the kind of Mexico Posada lived in. So he is influential, but what I am, and it is a great question, Reina, because what I am pointing out is, watch out, we have to review his work again, because we always associate Day of the Dead and Posada's work to our indigenous tradition, that of course is there, but also belongs to this European tradition of the Day of the Dead. Let me see, David, thanks, very informative. Thank you very much. El Día de los Muertos became really popular at the end of the 20th century. Have you seen the Emis film? No, I have not, but I will. Thank you very much for the hint. And my students that are here, and some of them are asking questions, thank you. And be sure that you will be looking during these days and some of these Calaveras. Well, I think, I hope I cover most of the questions because I cannot scroll down. So thanks again, and I hope I can see the administrators so we can conclude. Cesar, and yeah, thank you. I feel a little bit like a lock in a room because I don't see anybody. So thank you very much, Celia, for rescuing me.
Of course. Gracias a usted. That was wonderful. It's so
thank
interesting to learn about everything, and I'll be studying and reading everything. So I'm glad that you bring it up, that we should always reevaluate and look at it again. So thank you so much. And your voice is lovely. So
yeah, thank you. I love to sing, but I would not be allowed to sing if I don't offer something else. Okay.
So muchas gracias a todos. Thank you all so much for joining us. Don't forget that our next LME program will be next Thursday, again at 4 p.m. live on Facebook and YouTube, and it will be self-help graphics and arts patio mobile artists, and they will be doing another traditional craft for Dia de Muertos to honor our ancestors, which will be a papel picado. So all of the materials that you will need are listed at the event link, and we will also have a special Halloween celebration all week next week, Halloween. So tune into our Facebook Live and on YouTube to catch story times, some fun science activities, and even a special author visit. So thank you all so much. Muchas gracias a todos por acompañarnos hoy. No se les olvide que la semana que entra, el próximo jueves, otra vez a las 4, va a haber otro programa de LA Made y vamos a hacer papel picado con self-help graphics. Otra vez a las 4, todos los materiales que necesiten para completar el programa van a estar en la información sobre el evento y también vamos a tener especial celebraciones para el festival de Halloween. Toda la semana vamos a tener programas diferentes en la tarde para toda la familia, diferentes manualidades, horas de cuento y el sábado vamos a tener una fiesta para que nos enseñen sus disfraces. Muchas gracias a todos.
Hasta luego.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.